If supermarkets make you feel dizzy, spaced out, off balance, or strangely overwhelmed, you are definitely not imagining it. For some people, it starts the moment they walk through the doors. The bright lights feel harsh. The long aisles feel visually confusing. Suddenly, it becomes harder to focus, harder to walk normally, and your body starts feeling strangely disconnected or unsteady. And what makes this experience so frustrating is that other people seem completely fine. But supermarkets can actually create the perfect storm for certain dizziness and balance symptoms, especially when the brain is already struggling with sensory overload, visual motion sensitivity, anxiety-related dizziness, vestibular problems, migraines, or chronic feelings of imbalance. One reason supermarkets can feel so difficult is because your brain constantly uses visual information to help orient your balance system. Most people do not consciously notice this happening. But inside a supermarket, your visual system suddenly has to process an enormous amount of movement, depth, lighting, patterns, and peripheral information all at once. Think about it. There are bright fluorescent lights overhead, long repeating aisles, shiny reflective floors, crowds moving in different directions, trolleys passing by, shelves packed with colorful objects, scanning signs, motion in your side vision everywhere. You might notice it feels less like a general spinning sensation and more like your balance becomes harder to trust in that specific environment. Some people feel a subtle unsteadiness as they move down the aisles, almost like their walking rhythm does not quite match the space around them. Others describe a strange sense of being visually pulled around by everything happening in their side vision, so they start moving more carefully without really thinking about it. And for some, it is less about movement itself and more about a kind of mental overload, where staying oriented starts to take effort. When that happens, it can feel especially noticeable when you pause or slow down inside the store. But when you stop moving in a visually busy environment, your brain sometimes becomes even more aware of all the motion around you. Your eyes keep detecting movement from other people, changing perspectives, and passing objects, even though your body is not moving much itself. That sensory mismatch can create feelings of disequilibrium or motion sensitivity. For some people, supermarkets also trigger something called visual dependence. This is where the brain starts relying too heavily on visual information for balance, instead of smoothly integrating signals from the inner ear, muscles, joints, and spatial awareness systems together. So in visually complex places, the brain becomes overloaded, and balance symptoms increase. This is one reason some people feel more stable outdoors in open, quiet spaces, but much worse under artificial lighting in crowded indoor environments. Another overlooked factor is anxiety and body vigilance, not because the symptoms are just anxiety, but because once someone has had dizziness episodes before, the brain can start monitoring for symptoms automatically. You may walk into a supermarket already anticipating the feeling. Then your nervous system becomes more alert. Your breathing changes slightly. Your muscles tense, your visual scanning increases, your attention locks onto sensations that most people ignore. That heightened state can amplify dizziness symptoms even further, and after a while, the supermarket itself can start becoming associated with danger or loss of control. That is why some people notice symptoms before they even get out of the car. Migraine-related dizziness can also play a role here, even without a headache. Some people have nervous systems that are especially sensitive to light, motion, visual patterns, busy environments, or sensory stimulation. Supermarkets can become one of the most common places where those sensitivities show up. And fatigue matters too. Many people cope reasonably well when rested, calm, hydrated, and mentally relaxed. But when the brain is tired, stressed, overstimulated, or recovering from previous dizziness episodes, visual environments become much harder to process comfortably. What often scares people most is the feeling that something terrible is about to happen in public. You may worry about fainting, collapsing, losing control, or suddenly not being able to walk properly. But many people experiencing supermarket dizziness never actually fall. Instead, the brain enters a protective hyperalert state that feels extremely uncomfortable and disorienting. And the more someone rushes to escape the sensation every single time, the more strongly the brain can reinforce the supermarket as a threat trigger. That does not mean you should force yourself through overwhelming symptoms, but understanding the pattern can sometimes reduce the fear surrounding it. One helpful thing to remember is that balance is not controlled by just one system. It is a constant conversation between visual input, inner ear signals, body awareness, attention, stress levels, fatigue, and sensory processing. So when a visually intense environment overwhelms one part of that network, symptoms can appear surprisingly quickly. And for many people, the experience becomes much more manageable once they understand why it is happening. Because dizziness symptoms can come from very different patterns, a symptom quiz can sometimes help narrow down which factors may be contributing most to your specific experience. If you want to explore that further, you can find the quiz linked below. And if supermarkets make you feel dizzy, overwhelmed, disconnected, or off balance, you are far from the only person experiencing it.